Discover the miraculous power of Archangel Michael, God's divine champion for our faith and redemption. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon came to Jerusalem and besieged it. Among those taken captive was Daniel, a young man of noble lineage, whose heart remained steadfast in devotion to Yahweh amid the foreign idolatries surrounding him. Day after day, he witnessed the corrupt practices of Babylonian society, the clamor of false gods drowning out his faith-filled cries. He longed for the day when God's chosen people would return to their homeland, a vision that both inspired and tormented him. Each evening, as shadows crept across his dimly lit chamber, Daniel knelt in fervent prayer, seeking clarity from the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. His spirit was troubled, burdened by visions that surged within him like stormy seas. Disturbing images unfolded, depicting the fates of nations, swirling together like storm clouds of judgment and glimpses of restoration. "O Lord, what is the meaning of these visions?" he implored, fasting with an earnestness born from desperation. That on the 21st day of his solemn supplication, a thick tension filled the air, heavy with unanswered pleas. Yet in that moment of despair, an ethereal light blazed forth in his chamber, illuminating the darkness. The Archangel Michael, a radiant being of divine protection, stood before him, his presence filling the room with overwhelming strength. "Fear not, Daniel," he declared, his voice resounding with authority, "for I have come because of your words." As Daniel beheld Michael, awe gripped his heart. The angel spoke of a cosmic battle unfolding beyond human perception, where the cries of Israel resounded through the heavens. In the realm of the Spirit, Michael continued, "Conflicts rage and nations contend, but your prayers have sparked heaven's attention." The revelation shone light upon Daniel's struggles. He understood now that his deepest fears for his people were intertwined with a greater narrative of good versus evil. Michael recounted how he battled against the Prince of Persia, a spiritual adversary determined to thwart God's plan for his people. Daniel felt his pulse quicken. The very struggles of his heart echoed in this heavenly warfare. Though hope flickered within him, a trepidation remained. What did the future hold for Jerusalem and its people? "Your people shall be delivered in due time," Michael prophesied, igniting Daniel's spirit with renewed vigor. Yet with that spark of hope came questions that echoed in his mind. What trials awaited the remnant of Israel? What form would victory take when surrounded by such present darkness? With every heartbeat, his yearning intensified, caught between the stark reality of ruin and the promises of restoration unfolding in the heavenly light. Before Michael departed, he instilled within Daniel a profound silence, a reminder of the divine patience that awaited fulfillment. "Remember, beloved servant, this battle is not yours alone, it is the Lord's." The archangel's words hung in the air, wrapping around Daniel's aching heart like a comforting embrace. Now, as Daniel contemplated the flickering oil lamp casting dancing shadows upon the stone walls, unanswerable questions lingered in the stillness. How would God uphold his covenant amidst the turmoil? Through the spell of spiritual silence, he longed for further revelations. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. The shadows seemed to whisper secrets of hope, intertwined with deep longing, leaving Daniel poised on the brink of revelation. Would the tape of despair give way to threads of divine promise? Each moment of silence grew heavy with expectation. Uncertainty hung in the air like the scent of rain before the storm. Would the plans of Yahweh bring forth a new dawn for his people? As dawn approached, Daniel's heart surged with anticipation for what was to come. In the stillness of dawn, Daniel rose from his place of prayer, the weight of the night's revelations pressing upon him with profound significance. He meditated upon the angel's words, stirring the depths of his heart. As the soft light pierced the horizon, It illuminated the cherished scrolls of the prophets, ancient scrolls that echoed with the promises of God. His mind wandered to the prophecies of Jeremiah, who spoke of 70 years of desolation for Jerusalem and the destiny that awaited the faithful. "Thou, O Lord, art a God of truth," he murmured, finding comfort in the Holy Scriptures. "Your faithfulness endures throughout every generation." In this meditation, Daniel found steadfastness, recalling how his ancestors had once pled before the God of their fathers, who delivered Israel from the tyranny of Pharaoh. Days turned into weeks as Daniel sought the Lord, deepening his supplications for wisdom and understanding. His heart ached for his brethren, the remnants enduring the harsh tyranny of Babylon. Could they withstand the spiritual oppression? Would their faith flourish, or would it wither under the weight of idolatry? Every unanswered prayer and every moment spent in fasting served to deepen his resolve. On a day marked by a peculiar stillness, when the sun hung high in the azure sky, Daniel was once again visited by the Archangel Michael. A shimmer wrapped around him, yet it was not the vibrant light of their last encounter. Rather, a somber gravity accompanied this visit. "Daniel," Michael intoned with a voice that resonated like thunder spent in the distance, "the time has come for a new decree from heaven." Daniel's heart quickened at this proclamation. "What new revelation dost thou bring, O servant of the Most High?" he asked, desperate for understanding. "The prince of Persia hath resisted me," Michael revealed, the heaviness of his words weighing down upon Daniel's shoulders. "Yet, the Spirit of God sends me forth to declare that though trials shall come upon your people, the promise of restoration stands unwavering. For a remnant shall emerge, and they shall rise as a beacon of hope." Daniel's eyes widened in awe and confusion. "What sayest thou of this remnant? What trials shall they face, and how shall they be preserved?" "With every adversity comes the opportunity to witness his might," Michael continued. "And amidst the coming tribulations, there shall arise a king, one who shall sign decrees that will scatter thine people. But fret not, for the holy city will be rebuilt, and the desolation shall bear witness to the faithfulness of your God." The weight of the Archangel's declaration struck terror and awe in Daniel's heart. He envisioned the walls of Jerusalem falling and the dreams of his ancestors crumbling. Yet hope surged anew, ignited by the angel's words. "And in the latter days," Michael declared powerfully, "a time will come that will unveil the great tribulation and the triumph of the Most High. For the days are foreordained for his people, a time of suffering shall precede the greatest deliverance." With these profound revelations steeping in his spirit, Daniel felt the flames of faith rekindle. "But how shall this come to pass?" he asked. "O Michael, tell me of the end, for the longing of my heart craves understanding." The archangel paused, an enigmatic glint in his eyes. "The mystery lies hidden, Daniel, until the appointed time. But take heart, for what the Lord declares shall be accomplished. His covenant is eternal, and in this saga unfolds the tapestry of his unfathomable plan." As Michael's figure began to diminish like the morning mist, the air filled with a lingering charge of divine intent. Daniel remained on his knees, enveloped in a whirlwind of astonishment and reverence. He knew in his heart that the shadows of uncertainty now bore the marvelous light of promise, and so, as he knelt in the temple of his chamber, the weight of his questions began to shift into an expectation of the mighty hand of God that would soon be unveiled. He sensed that in the forthcoming trials, not only would his people witness despair, but they would also see the glorious hand of God deliver them. In that moment, he whispered a prayer of gratitude, knowing that God's perfect plans were anchored in love, yet laced with a divine mystery that awaited revelation. As the sun ascended, casting golden hues across the land, Daniel's heart braced for the unfolding of events that would shape the destiny of nations. Little did he know, but the chapter of their redemption was about to intertwine with a greater narrative of his sovereign will. As dusk descended, the gates of Babylon stood tall, a fortress amid a city steeped in the murmurs of despair and hope. Daniel, still enwrapped in the potent essence of Michael's visit, presented himself before the Lord in fasting and prayer. His heart ached for the people of Israel. "Lord of hosts," he pleaded, his voice quivering with earnestness, "I come before thee with remorse and supplication. We have sinned against thee, and our transgressions have led us into this desolation. Remember the covenant thou made with our fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The silence weighed heavy in the chamber, yet the presence of the Lord enveloped him like a comforting cloak. In that sacred moment, a vision flickered before his eyes, of vast sea, darkened by clouds, yet showing hints of light breaking through. And behold, an echo of the past resounded within him. He recalled the words of the prophet Isaiah, comfort ye my people, Isaiah 40 verse 1. That thought ignited a spark of perseverance. Could it be, Lord, that deliverance was nigh? With this thought braided into the fabric of his petitions, the air thickened with divine purpose, and suddenly, the chamber was filled with wind, a movement of heaven. The Spirit of God swept upon him, and the presence of an angel pierced his spirit anew, filling him with righteous awe. Daniel, man greatly beloved, the voice resonated, powerful and pure. It was Gabriel, the messenger of God, who had come with another message previously reserved for such a time as this. I stand as a herald of mighty truth and proclamation. The time of your people's return is upon us, and the restoration of Jerusalem shall begin. Daniel's heart raced as he absorbed the proclamation, for these words were kindled by hope. O Gabriel, what sign shall we see? How shall the hearts of our people be stirred to return? In the days forthcoming, Gabriel whispered, carrying the weight of cosmic knowledge, you will witness a great stirring within the king's heart. There shall arise a decree not of scattering, but of gathering, an edict that shall allow the return of those who are willing. And the heart of the remnant that returns shall be rekindled in the fire of devotion, a reflection of the covenant established by the Most High. Yet know this, he continued, trouble and tumult shall precede this return. The prince who oppresses shall fight vehemently against the plans of God, and persecution shall chase the faithful. But fear not, for they shall rise again, bearing fruit unto righteousness. And, O Daniel, in this time to come of trials, remember the mystery sealed within you. Gabriel warned with an urgency that grasped Daniel's spirit. For the days ahead shall unveil the revelation of the everlasting kingdom, a kingdom that surpasses every crown and throne known by man. As the angel faded from view, an intricately woven tapestry of God's sovereign plans enveloped Daniel. He saw not just Jerusalem, but a vision of a new covenant, a promise of grace and deliverance spilling into the world beyond Israel. His spirit soared, uplifted by the hand of God which would extend far from the walls of Jerusalem. Surely our God reigns, he proclaimed, his voice resonating with conviction. He remained on his knees, the weight of the nations resting upon his heart. The God of wonders would indeed act. The deliverance was written, awaiting the moment to unfold. For all that transpires in earth and sky intertwines into the greater narrative of God's sovereignty. Thus, the questions remained: what glory awaited those who stood firm in faith? What powers would clash in the coming days? The unfolding story was intricately woven, bound by divine promise, yet veiled in mystery, a mystery that would soon reveal the profound depths of God's love and the inexorable force of his purpose among nations. As the dawn broke over Babylon, the city stirred to life amidst the clangor of the marketplace and the distant echoes of artisans at work. Yet, within the heart of Daniel, a holy urgency prevailed. Each moment weighed upon him as he considered the weight of Gabriel's revelation. He rose from his knees, the steadfast resolve of his forefathers filling him. With a heart set upon prayer, Daniel sought to commune with others who longed for their homeland. He gathered those who remained steadfast in faith amid the struggles of exile. Among them was Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, whose spirits were drawn together, bound by a singular purpose. Brothers, Daniel spoke, his voice strong yet gentle, we have received a promise from the Lord. The angel of God declared that our deliverance is drawing near. We must prepare our hearts for the return, but let us not forget the trials that will come. This is our moment to strengthen one another and rekindle the flame of devotion. Amid their prayers, a hush fell over them, and an overwhelming sense of anticipation enveloped the gathering. The need to persist in faith resonated in Daniel's heart, reminding him of the words of the prophet Jeremiah. For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace, and not of evil, to give you an expected end. Jeremiah 29 verse 11. With fervor ignited, they prayed for the remnant left in Jerusalem, invoking the Lord's name to protect them and inspire courage among those seeking to return. Days turned to weeks, and Daniel continued to serve in the courts of Babylon, diligently seeking news of the situation in Jerusalem. Then one day, a stirring arose as whispers of a decree reached his ears, a bold proclamation from King Cyrus. The king had declared that the Israelites could return to their homeland and rebuild the house of God. "Behold, the time has come," Daniel exclaimed as he rushed to his companions. "Our prayers have been heard. The God of heaven has stirred the heart of Cyrus. Let none grow weary, for his word shall not return void." As brothers and sisters rejoiced, their voices filled the air, singing praises, offering thanks for the deliverance that seemed to be at hand. Yet in Daniel's heart, an undercurrent of concern remained, for he knew that just as deliverance had come, so would trials abound. A heavy silence fell upon him as he recalled Gabriel's warning of the prince who would rise against them, fierce in battle. "Let us not be naive," he cautioned. "The darkness will seek to smother the light of our return. We must stand firm, shielded by prayer, armed with faith, and devoted to the commands of our God." The gathering broke into fervent supplication, hearts interceding not only for the return, but also for the strength to endure whatever awaited them. Each prayer echoed the Psalms, carrying the legacy of their ancestors who once sang in the courts of Zion. As the days rolled forth, the report of Cyrus's decree set forth a wave of movement among the exiles. Families began to pack their belongings, hearts knitted together in hope and expectation, yet laden with the memories of the past. And amidst this great anticipation, an unsettling vision gripped Daniel one evening. He saw a conflict unfolding, men in armor clashing as dark shadows sought to extinguish the flame of hope among the faithful. The cry of an enemy arose, a voice belched from the depths of opposition, urging exile's heart to despair. Thus, he fell upon his face before God. "O Lord, give assurance amidst the storm. Let your people be a light even in the trials they shall face." For he sensed that the foremost struggles would not only test their resolve, but would usher in the unveiling of divine providence. The battle was not theirs alone. Behind it loomed a greater narrative, the coming involvement of heavenly hosts led by Michael, the Archangel of battle. What divine strategies lay ahead that would intertwine their faith with the eternal purpose of God? Amidst the chaos, God's sovereign design would be revealed, an enigmatic tapestry of grace that would outreach all nations. That in the face of uncertainty, Daniel knew that all would culminate into a beautiful symphony of his glory, a glory that, in time, would, like a great river, flow toward the nations, redeeming and reconciling through trials and tribulations. Would the faithful rise, proving steadfast in the face of opposition? The unfolding narrative invited every heart to join this mighty movement, drawing closer to the immeasurable depths of God's unshakable plan. As the sun set over Babylon, the heart of the city began to glow with the hues of twilight. Yet within Daniel's spirit, a steely resolve eclipsed his thoughts. He stood at a precipice, wrestling with the visions that haunted him. The promises of God weighed heavy, pressing upon him with the fervor of divine anticipation. Gathered once again, his comrades congregated around him, their faces drawn with concern but lit with hope. "The time of our deliverance is upon us," Daniel encouraged them. "Yet, heed my words, the path will not be devoid of hardship. Muhammad's era is at hand, the fierce prince shall rise, and darkness will surely challenge the light. Do we not know the God we serve?" declared Hananiah, a fervent glint in his eye. "For the Lord is a mighty warrior. His arm is stretched out to save." Spirits were lifted as each man reminded the others of the covenant faithfulness of God, and their voices rang in unison. "Yet we must prepare," Daniel insisted. "Let us gather the words of the prophet Isaiah, reminding us to put on the whole armor of God." Among the sacred scrolls, they sought insight, poring over passages that spoke of resilience. "No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper," Isaiah 54 verse 17. That as night wore on, a solemn atmosphere enveloped them. They lit candles, every flicker symbolizing their unwavering faith amid uncertainty. They sought the face of God in prayer, unyielding in supplication, that his presence would go before them into the land of their fathers. Daniel, with intensity rising within him, called upon the promises declared through the prophet Jeremiah, "I will bring you again into the place whence I caused you to be carried away captive." Jeremiah 29 verse 14. Suddenly, amidst their prayers, a stir ran through the gathering. The door swung open, and an envoy from King Cyrus entered, his expression solemn yet hopeful. "O exiles of Judah," he proclaimed, "the king sees fit to aid your journey. Resources await to rebuild the temple, that your God may dwell among you once more." Joy erupted, but Daniel's heart turned again to the visions that had beset him, dark forces marshaling against them. Would the promise of return be coupled with trials? Days passed in prayerful preparation, packing provisions, and sharing the stories of old with the children. Daniel often shared tales of David, Gideon, and Jephthah, igniting the faith of the young ones. Each fire kindled in the hearts of the people drew them closer to the promise of restoration. Yet the weight of unease began to constrict his heart again as whispers of impending conflict reached his ears. "Our return is but the beginning," Daniel cautioned once more. "We must align our actions with faith, lest we falter as we confront the darkness that seeks to extinguish our light." On a particular day, while seeking solitude, Daniel sought the billowing fragrance of incense, unfolding his heart before God. "Reveal to me, O Lord, the plans of the enemy that seek to thwart our purpose. Unfurl the destiny that awaits your faithful, for I plead for insight and assurance." In an instant, divine clarity dawned upon him, and he beheld Michael, the Archangel, standing resolutely at heaven's gates. A heavy presence filled the air, for Michael bore the sword of the Lord, a champion for those who would rise in faith against formidable odds. "Rise, O faithful!" Michael's voice rang across the heavens. "Stand firm in the faith, for the God of hosts is with you. Though shadows will dance about your feet, you carry the light that will pierce the veil of despair." With renewed strength, Daniel emerged with the echo of that mighty declaration. "This I have seen our journey will not merely be a return, but the divine unfolding of his plan through us. All creation shall witness the manifestation of God's glory, wrought through the trials we face." In that moment, a promise ignited within him, intertwining with the heart of the remnant. Would they, armed with faith and fortified by the Archangel's might, emerge not only to reclaim their land but to herald the coming of a greater deliverance for the nations? The celestial dynamics were in play. The story was only beginning. What further trials awaited them? And how would God's sovereign plan weave together the fate of not just the exiles, but of all nations? The tapestry of redemption was set to unfold in ways the faithful had yet to fathom, beckoning them to trust in the hidden purposes of their God. As the dawn broke over Babylon, the rays of sunlight pierced through the darkness like a divine promise, heralding the day of departure. The people of Judah, stirred by the hope of restoration, gathered once more around Daniel. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation, yet shadows lingered on the edges of their hearts. "Brothers," Daniel began, his voice commanding yet tender, "with the strength of courage, we must embark upon the path set before us. As it is written in the Psalms, 'The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?' Psalm 27 verse 1. We face an uncertain road, but our faith remains unshakable. Near him stood Mishael, his brow furrowed in thought. What shall we do when the fearsome enemies rise to harass our progress, Daniel? Shall we stand alone against the tide of darkness? It is not we who stand alone, Daniel replied, eyes gleaming with fervor. For the Lord our God goes before us. He has prepared a way like in the days of Joshua when the walls of Jericho fell before the sound of praise, Joshua 6. Encouraged, they began their journey, their hearts beating in unison with hope and determination. As they traversed the land, they faced trials, hunger, fatigue, and the murmurs of discontent echoed through the ranks. Yet, fortified by faith and hope, they pressed onward, recalling the words of the prophet Isaiah, "They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles." Isaiah 40 verse 31. One evening, while camped by the banks of the Euphrates River, a messenger arrived, urgency etched deep upon his face. "Daniel," he exclaimed, "a formidable army has gathered against us. led by men who seek to quench the return of the exiles. They know of our plans to rebuild the temple of the Lord. An ominous silence fell over the camp as fear swept through the men. Daniel, rising to his feet, felt the weight of the moment, yet recalled the vision of Michael. "Do not fear," he proclaimed, his voice firm. "The Lord shall defend us. Just as he delivered our ancestors from the hand of Pharaoh, so too shall he deliver us today." As the sun set, the murmurs of uncertainty faded, replaced by a chorus of faith-filled exclamations. They lifted their voices in song, celebrating the God who had brought them thus far. "Sing unto the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously," they declared, clamoring for divine strength and assurance even amidst rising darkness. In the stillness of the night, Daniel sought solitude once more. Alighting upon a high ridge, he gazed towards the heavens, beseeching God in prayer. "O Lord of hosts, reveal to me the strategy against our foes. Show me your ways that I may guide our people with wisdom." As he fervently sought the Lord, the air around him shifted. The familiar presence of Michael enveloped him, a celestial encouragement in the shadow of impending conflict. "Fear not, Daniel," the archangel's voice resonated powerfully. "The battle is not yours, for the Lord has commanded his angels concerning you, to guard you in all your ways." Psalm 91 verse 11. "Then let the promises rise," Daniel breathed, emboldened by the assurance of heaven. "Let us prepare our hearts and minds, for our God is both our warrior and our strength. Together, we will advance not merely to reclaim our land, but to signal the arrival of his everlasting kingdom." The embers of faith ignited brighter among the people as they readied for whatever lay ahead. Would they witness the realignment of their destiny? With each step forward, the faithful questioned what marvelous works God would unveil. The road stretched formidable before them, and uncertainty loomed, yet there was a divine promise hidden just beneath the surface, waiting to be revealed. What glory might unfold from their trials, and how would their resistance echo through future generations? The divine tapestry awaited, intricately woven by the hands of God, poised to reveal the magnificent orchestration of his sovereign plan. As the night deepened, a clarion call echoed through the ranks of the exiles. From the shadows emerged Uriah, a warrior known for his fervent spirit and unwavering faith. "Brothers, the Lord has stirred within me a vision," he proclaimed, drawing the attention of all who gathered around the fire. "I saw an army of light descending from the heavens, with Michael leading them, clothed in armor, radiant in glory. He spoke to me, saying, 'I shall fight for my people, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against them.'" A sudden hush fell, as awe and wonder intermingled with the hearts of the listeners. Mishael stepped forward, his eyes bright with hope. Could it be true, that the Lord sends his champion to stand amongst us? Surely, we must prepare our hearts and trust in his deliverance. "Prepare, yes," Daniel affirmed, feeling the strength of Uriah's vision surge through him. "But let us do so not with sword or shield, but with fervent prayers and steadfast worship. The might of our God shall be our weapon. For it is written, 'The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds.'" 2 Corinthians 10 verse 4. And so, the people gathered, lifting their voices in heartfelt songs of praise and prayer. They soared in worship as if their words might pierce the heavens. The sounds of their melodies reverberated through the valleys and echoed against the mountains, reaching into the very throne of grace. Days turned into nights, and the assembly remained devoted, unyielding in their quest for divine intervention. Yet as they continued their journey, the formidable enemy loomed ever closer. Their encampment became a hive of anticipation and anxiety. Amidst this turmoil, an elder named Zerubbabel rallied the weary, his face illuminated by the flickering light of understanding. "Fellow exiles," he called, "let us remember the words of the prophet Ezekiel. 'I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you.' Ezekiel 36 verse 26. This is our renewal moment. God has promised that he will not abandon us, nor leave us without aid. Daniel, inspired by Zerubbabel's faith, called forth a day of fasting and prayer. With humility, they all gathered at the banks of the Euphrates, the water reflecting the starlit sky above. Daniel fell to his knees, and in solemn petition, cried out, "O Lord God of our fathers, we beseech you. Give us strength, courage, and wisdom. Let not despair lay siege to our hearts. As the hours passed in prayer, the heavens shifted once more. A wind swept across the river, rustling the leaves of the trees, and a luminous figure appeared amidst the gathering, a manifestation of Michael, bearing the armor of God, eyes blazing with divine purpose. Behold the host of heaven, he declared with a voice that trembled the earth. The Lord has dispatched me to bring you assurance. Today, you shall witness the might of your God. With that, a sense of awe enveloped them. It was as though distractions and doubts vanished in that holy moment. United in spirit, they began to chant the words of Psalm 46. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Psalm 46 verse 1. In their unified resolve, a profound realization washed over the assembly. The battle was never theirs alone. God, in his sovereign plan, had sent his angelic army for their deliverance. They would rise as one, emboldened and fortified. As dawn's light began to paint the horizon, a trumpet sounded from the camp of the enemy. The moment had arrived. Would these faithful witness the fulfillment of God's promise? Would the veil of victory be lifted, revealing the divine tapestry of his sovereignty in their midst? In faith, they prepared to confront the foes that stood before them, hearts attuned to the whispers of God's might and assurance. And deep within, a divine mystery stirred. What miraculous deeds would the Lord enact through his faithful and his crowned champion, the Archangel Michael? The time had come where eyes would behold the unfolding of his eternal purpose. As the sun rose, casting its first light upon the weary faces of the exiles, the air crackled with a tension that was both palpable and electric. Daniel lifted his eyes toward Michael, the archangel, who stood resplendent with a countenance that gleamed like the morning star. "Almighty Michael," he exclaimed, "lead us into battle. With the Lord's strength upon you, we stand ready to fulfill his will. Fear not." Michael's voice resonated over the hills, "For the Lord of hosts is with you, and his power shall be your shield. Stand firm in faith, as it is written, the Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be silent." Exodus 14 verse 14. An overwhelming sense of calm spread over the crowd, replacing the anxiety that had clung to their hearts. Uriah moved amongst them, his voice a stirring anthem of hope. "This day, our deliverance is at hand. Let us not shrink back, for the Almighty who created the heavens and earth goes before us." Mishael's heart swelled with courage, for in that moment, he saw not just men ready for battle, but a united front, emboldened by divine promise. "We are not alone," he shouted. The assembly echoed his words, rising like a wave across the encampment. "We are not alone." The sounds of their fervent declarations mingled with the distant clang of metal from the enemy camp, a jarring reminder of the impending confrontation. Yet, amidst the tumult, the faithful held fast to the assurances delivered through their prayers and the prophetic vision of Uriah. A glorious light seemed to envelop them, igniting an inner fire of resolve. As the enemy trumpets echoed once again, Michael lifted his arm, and a brilliant light erupted from his form, illuminating the battlefield ahead. "Advance," he commanded. "Let the glory of the Lord be your banner." With hearts ablaze, the exiles surged forth across the plain, their unity a testament to their faith. Michael led them, a figure of divine authority, his every step a declaration of God's sovereignty. As they approached the enemy lines, confusion gripped the foes. The ground trembled beneath the feet of both armies, and the heavens themselves seemed to draw near. Upon witnessing the advancing multitude, the enemy commanders faltered. "What manner of people are these?" Some whispered in fear. "Have they summoned the heavens against us?" Meanwhile, the exiles raised their voices in prayerful chants, reciting the promises of the Lord. "We shall not be afraid though the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea." Psalm 46 verse 2. Their faith surged like a tidal wave, washing over doubt and despair. The Archangel Michael, sensing the growing fear of the opposing forces, lifted his voice amidst the gathering storm of battle. "Let the heavens declare the glory of God. Let his might be known." At these words, a fierce gale swept across the plain, the winds mimicking the clash of 1,000 thunderous armies. Lo and behold, The enemy's ranks began to scatter, the fear of the Lord gripping their hearts. They turned upon one another in confusion, the promised victory shifting toward the camp of the faithful. Daniel watched in awe, realizing that the battle unfolding was one of heavenly orchestration. Indeed, our God is a God of wonders, he murmured, feeling the weight of divine strength flowing through their ranks. Yet, even as victory seemed imminent, a deeper revelation began to stir within the soul of Daniel. The path before them was not merely one of earthly triumph. It was a prelude to a much greater work of God's unfolding plan. What would this deliverance unleash? What greater purpose lay hidden within this moment? As the dust of battle arose, the faithful stood ready, the Archangel casting a resolute gaze across the horizon, knowing that the journey was just beginning. The divine tapestry was being woven, and in it, there rested a sacred mystery. What profound acts of love and grace were yet to be revealed through the history of their deliverance? The promise of God resonated within them, echoing his unending faithfulness as they pressed on into the vast unknown. As the battle unfolded, chaos was rendered a tool of divine purpose. The enemy, now ensnared by confusion, clashed violently among themselves as Michael's presence brought forth a storm more fearsome than any they had known. The light that emanated from him pierced the darkness of their spirits, casting a long shadow over their hearts, and they trembled in the weight of a fear that had no earthly origin. Daniel and his companions pressed forward, emboldened by the manifestations of the Lord's might. Each step they took rang with certainty, for the words of Scripture echoed within them. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness. Ephesians 6 verse 12. The exiles were made acutely aware of this truth. Their struggle was yet a heavenly confrontation, a battle ordained by God himself. Suddenly, amidst the tumult, Uriah's voice rose, breaking through the din of clashing swords and confused cries. Remember the promise of restoration. With God, we shall not falter. He has said, I will restore to you the years that the swarming locust has eaten. Joel 2 verse 25. This promise coursed through the crowd like an energizing river, igniting their hearts anew. With renewed vigor, they surged towards the enemy, whose numbers were diminishing as divine intervention wreaked havoc among their ranks. Mishael, witnessing the beauty of God's handiwork around him, felt the stirring of hope overpowering any remnants of fear. Look, he cried, see how the Lord works on behalf of the faithful. Gather your strength. The hour of deliverance is nigh. As they advanced, Michael raised his hands toward the heavens, invoking an even greater display of heavenly might. Fire from the sky rained down, singeing the ensconced foes in their lanes of retreat. The Archangel's fervor ignited a dependent spirit within the exiles. The God of Israel is our champion. Let us trust in his salvation. Yet, even as victory loomed ever closer, Daniel felt an unsettling whisper tugging at his spirit. A vision unfolded within him, the long-awaited promise of their restoration and the establishment of a covenant much greater than their immediate deliverance. He perceived a community revived, nations turned towards the Lord, and the holy place restored. O God, he breathed, what is this purpose that you reveal so faintly in my heart? The sun began to set, shrouding the battlefield in hues of gold and crimson, resembling the sacrifice that was to inevitably come. At that moment, Michael turned to face Daniel, his shimmering form reflecting an integrity of divine purpose. Fear not for the tribulations of this hour, he spoke with the voice of thunder. For the Lord is not merely orchestrating victory today, but he is preparing the way for ultimate redemption through his people, a people whose hearts will be renewed, who shall bear witness to the nations and fulfill the prophecy spoken. The collective spirit of the exiles rose, for they felt the weight of their destiny rest upon them, a history marked by God's covenant love. The fierce winds of battle had stirred more than just their courage. They awakened within them a divine urgency, awakening the call to draw nearer to God. The last echoes of the battle subsided, and they stood amidst a field of gathering dusk. Questions lingered in Daniel's heart. What edicts lay ahead? What depths would God lead them into? The victory was but a glimpse of his eternal purpose, a promise waiting to unfurl across time and space. Therefore, as the Archangel Michael and the exiles found firm footing on this hallowed ground, the promise of God reverberated through the ages. This day is not the end, but a beginning. The steps before you shall ripple throughout eternity, crafting stories of my grace yet to be told. What awaited them in this uncharted territory of divine pursuit? What revelation would emerge from the very heart of God? The journey awaited, pregnant with mystery and promise. In the twilight of that victorious hour, the echoes of the battle where Michael led the charge began to fade, replaced by a ringing silence that heralded a new dawn. Daniel looked upon the remnants of the army that had once threatened their return. Confusion had turned their strength asunder. The reality of their deliverance washed over him like a river of grace, instilling a sense of calm in the hearts of the exiles. Look upon the works of the Lord, he proclaimed, the weight of thanksgiving filling his voice. For he has delivered us from the hand of our enemies. As evening settled, the people gathered around Daniel, gratitude stamped upon their faces. The fire of hope flickered brighter, igniting a newfound fervor within their spirits. Rejoice, for today we have witnessed the might of our God. He instructed his brethren. Let us not forget what we have learned this day. The battle belongs to the Lord, and he shall lead us into the next chapter of his divine plan. Mishael stepped forward, his heart ablaze with purpose. What shall we do now, Daniel? The pathway is before us, but the challenges are far from over. How do we prepare for the journey ahead? Brothers and sisters, Daniel urged as he raised his hands to the heavens, let us seek the face of God in prayer, that he may guide our steps. We have not only fought for our home, but for the promise of restoration for ourselves and for those who will come after us. His words resonated within the assembly, and together they fell to their knees, lifting prayers of gratitude and supplication for the journey that lay ahead. In the stillness of that sacred moment, a gentle wind stirred, and suddenly, Michael appeared once again, vibrant in his radiance, the victory etched upon his countenance. Fear not, beloved ones, he murmured, his voice a balm for their anxious spirits. The victory you have won is not solely yours. It is a decree that will ripple through generations, a promise leading to the ultimate redemption of God's people. Michael, Daniel exclaimed, his voice filled with awe. What shall we expect as we return to Jerusalem? What trials await us on the road to restoration? Listen closely, Daniel, Michael replied, his eyes reflecting divine understanding. The remnants of your people will indeed face adversities. Oppression shall rise again as the dark prince seeks to derail the mighty work of God. Yet, rejoice, overcoming and transformation are birthed through trials. For through every tribulation, my people shall witness the hand of God at work, and they shall arise as a testimony of faith to the nations. Strengthened by the Archangel's divine assurance, Daniel arose from his knees. He felt emboldened by the promise expounded before him. Let us carry forward the flame of faith, he declared, eyes shimmering with fire. We will prepare the way for the building of the temple, while reminding our people that our deliverance is not an end, but a beginning. As the dust settled around them, the exiles began to gather their strength and provisions, each heart echoing the promise bestowed upon them by heaven. Every step toward Jerusalem would be laden with the history of God's faithfulness. They looked toward the horizon, the path winding ahead, knowing within their spirits that they were architects of a divine legacy. Days turned into weeks as they journeyed, their hearts intertwined with purpose. Amidst trials and tribulations, Daniel led with the insight granted him from heaven, often recalling the words of the prophets who had foretold of a covenant renewed. They sang songs of praise in their camps, emboldened by memories of victory and the strength they shared as exiles united. Yet, doubt sometimes crept into their hearts, bringing with it the weight of past failures, sometimes even offering temptations to return to the familiar comforts of Babylon. Is it worth the struggle? Some would whisper, their eyes growing dim. Remember where our true strength lies. Daniel would respond, resolute. God has shown us his hand and presence. Every trial is a call to faith, a deepening of our trust, as we are led toward his promises unfolding. And thus, with prayer and unity, they progressed toward Jerusalem, laden with hope and the promise of restoration. The exiles shared stories of God's miraculous deeds along the way, igniting the hearts of the younger generations with a fervor that often turned tears into laughter and fears into resolve. As they drew nearer to Jerusalem, the vision became clearer. The hope for a restored temple burned within them, fueled by the resolve to gather and rebuild what had once been lost. Daniel led them in diligently mapping their plans, recounting the ways that past generations had celebrated their God, a God who had brought them forth through both strength and weakness. Together, we labor as a reflection of his faithfulness, he reminded them. We are bound to a covenant that extends beyond ourselves. It rekindles hope, ignites change, and renews even the desolate hearts of our future generations. And when they at last reached the borders of Jerusalem, their hearts surged with anticipation and awe. They felt the shadows of their past lift, and every footfall upon the sacred soil felt like a fulfilling embrace of love. With hearts united and spirits revived, they looked upon the desolate walls that had once constrained them. Daniel raised his voice in a cry of hope. Let us build. For the God who delivered us shall empower us to rise from ashes, crafting a new legacy, a legacy that shall echo through the ages. United as one, they answered the calling, ready to embrace the unfolding chapters of divine purpose, the divine tapestry now woven with their hearts and minds, leading them further into the very depths of God's mystery of grace. The covenant stood anew, triumphant in love, beckoning them to trust in the promise received. And so, dear followers of Christ, as you witness the movements of Daniel and his people, reflect upon how God is weaving his own tapestry in your lives. What steps is the Lord asking you to take toward his divine promise? Subscribe immediately to remain anchored in these powerful biblical stories, for only true believers understand how they empower our faith today. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through the algorithm, and comment your reflections on how this journey of Daniel has inspired your own faith. Don't wait even one more second to share this message with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. Together, we can fulfill the call to unite as a community, weaving a legacy of faith across the generations. Let us boldly stand in his promises,